All right, guys, here we go. I think this should be use number 519 of the Nacet blade. We're going to put it in as usual for August, and actually for the last long time, because this timeless 68 open comb stainless steel razor has been the best user, the best razor to have the Nacet in. B35 Zenith as well, as we've been using last while. The scent for everything today is Chiseled Face Midnight Stag. Definitely going to have to buy another tub of it in the near future, because we do have the ring of death now. It doesn't really take a lot of soap to do a shave, whether you're doing a method that has a dry soap like this as the start, or whether it's got a lot of water. In either case, if you're smart, then you will change your load time, right? We showed that half a rotation, half a swirl in this tub here gave me plenty of lather for 5 passes if the soap was quite wet because of previous uses, right? Cumulative moisture buildup. But now, last couple days, I have left the soap out to step back from that and see what the swirl amount might be in a more normal situation where the soap doesn't retain as much moisture. Recently, I think it was 4 or 5 swirls, and that's starting to resemble my shaves in the past with MDC, Austere August a couple years ago. I believe that between 5 and 7 swirls, maybe. 5 and 7 is in my brain somehow. And so when the soap has just a little bit of water in it from a lightly wet brush coming at it every day, see, it's not going to have, you can visually, you can see the water in this when I was doing the slurry lather method with it over and over. But with my more normal method, then I think 5 or 7 swirls is about right for a nice luxurious amount of lather. And so it was good to change tactics a little bit and have the soap be dry. So maybe we'll do 5 swirls today. And you know what we're also going to do? We're going to bring in my bowl and kind of take the slurry lather method and bring a bowl into the mix and see what changes, because that's one of the fun things about Austere August here. When you use the same gear all the time, you're able to either fine-tune your technique about the razor or a lather or something like that, or you're able to experiment in new directions because your variables aren't changing. I know if you're like me, when you are in the normal situation of having to be able to choose between soaps and razors and blades and brushes and all that stuff, if you're lucky enough to have a multi-collection of those kind of items, then it's just so fun to switch it up all the time, right? And so then you don't have those variables be static. And so playing around with different things in terms of technique, in terms of lather making, that sort of thing, becomes a little bit more difficult, problematic. I was going to say diplomatic, and that's difficult and problematic combined. All right, let me get my face wet. And then we will start with the brush being just as wet as I would usually start it with the slurry lather method, which is pretty wet. It's just that now we know that instead of all that water, some dripping onto my shirt during the first pass as I'm tenderly using only the tips, we know that it's going to land in the bowl. All right. Yeah, we said about 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see how that works out. And we'll take it to the bowl. Oh, let me show you the blade in the razor while my hands are not lathery. I keep it, lately I've been keeping it in the razor instead of taking it out. You can see there, right there, the glint of the bend that's been in it for a while, as well as other markings I hope you can see. Timeless, another great thing about it, it has excellent blade clamping, and that's one of the reasons I think it's so awesome. Do you see that bottom, the base plate here, and how close it comes to the edge of the blade? That's its strength. That's why it's so smooth while being efficient, comfortable. I just really enjoy it. Now the open comb makes it an order of magnitude higher in terms of aggressiveness, and I can only use this razor really when I have an old blade like this. But this design they have with that firm edge makes the 95 and the 68 in the solid bar base plates so wonderfully smooth and enjoyable for me if I have a younger blade. So we have shown you the blade, we've tightened everything down there. So now we've got a very wet brush with a little bit of soap in there. So what we'll do is we'll start mixing. The point of the slurry lather is to have something really wet as your first pass. And so we're not going to try to make a mature lather here in the bowl right now. We'll just kind of work up. Okay, there we go. And the nice thing is, you know, we may not have all that dripping because we worked up a little early lather right away. So I can go right to my face with this and let's just see what happens. Who knows, this could be a wonderful method since it's not as messy. There's one drop. I could have potentially loaded for longer, and I may discover that I wish I had done that, but we'll just see what happens. Okay, it does feel a little bit like, well, and here's the benefit. You know, you've got a bowl and there's a little bit left over in the bowl, whereas previously all the soap would still be in the brush. Okay, so there we go. Possible that 5 swirls around in this dry soap is not enough. And so that's something we may discover. Light touch as always. Good razor technique, even if I do have an old blade that could potentially be pressed on harder if I were tempted to do that. But I keep my technique the same so that I can easily switch back and forth between a brand new blade and this one and not suffer any ill effects. There we go. As you can see, with the dripping that we have here, and the razor had some lather on it as well. It's a very wet lather right now. We'll see if it comes together more in the second and third passes. Just splash some water on my face, and the feeling that the hunch that I have so far is that maybe the 5 swirls wasn't quite enough. Okay, so I'm just going to go back in, kind of pick up some more soap here. With such a dry soap, the 5 maybe not quite enough. But you can see on my face, this does look like a slurry. Oh, and you can see the wetness and the slickness there of the soap. So yeah, I'm going to guess 5 or 6 or 7 swirls would have been better. And I probably would have had something a little thicker than a kind of a weak slurry right now. So that'll give me something to try tomorrow. But we've also just added some water into the soap. So to make it the same issue, I'm going to have to leave the lid off to let this water evaporate. But we do have a slick performing lather here. Razor's moving easily. I can feel now the right over here where I shaved a second ago has started to dry out a little bit, and so it's not quite as nice as you can tell it's not quite soapified as much as a couple of more swirls would have made it. Now we'll splash, and I'm just doing a 1 splash on my face since I suspect that the soap is a little low. just to preserve maybe a little bit of the soap on my face from the previous pass. And then we're kind of milking what's in the thing here in the bowl. So this is very wet right here. And so what I could do is I could definitely go back to the bowl and get a little bit more soap. But this is my last pass. So why don't we just kind of get this really drippy, sloppy lather and make use of it. It's just super crazy wet and slick. So sometimes it is definitely good to go back to the puck and get some more soap. But if you've got kind of a brush full of something like this, it's optional. You don't have to. Cross grain again. And yeah, very nice slickness here. And even if you're observing my shenanigans with this slurry lather and my bowl lathering technique, if you are a face latherer, well, I guess, or a bowl lather, if you have never shaved and had the lather drip off the razor in some capacity. Now, I'm not saying, I mean, this lather right here is super crazy wet. But if it's even glopped off, if it's never done that, give it a shot. Add more water to what you're doing. If you've never tried it. Get it to the point where it's so wet that it's, as you're shaving, it's not sticking to the razor. It's even slowly glooping off and falling on your shirt or falling in the sink. Try that out. See if that's a kind of slickness you like. If it's not, no big deal. But I've known a good many guys who try something wetter and they discover a whole new world that they didn't really think existed in terms of slickness. And so there we go. That's 3 passes and 5 swirls in the tub on a dry soap. I'll bump that up if I, you know what? Tomorrow I might be able to do 5 passes if I capped this up because we've got moisture right there. But I'm going to try to keep things consistent. I'm going to keep it open so that it's almost like each day it's a brand new shave, a brand new soap experience there. Yes, that's eliminating a variable, right? Because we've already seen through the course of this month how gradually I reduced the load time as the soap got wetter. So we've already kind of proven that. All right, let me do some cleanup. I like to clean the brush when I don't have hands that have aftershave product on them, so I like to do that before this stage. Chisel Face Midnight Stag Splash. Same scent for the cologne. And there we go. I am going to leave the soap open like I talked about so that that moisture can leave. And maybe we can increase maybe to 7 swirls tomorrow and try this same bowl approach to the slurry lather. And the general idea here is this slurry lather is, to me, it's all about using that ultra wet and what ends up to be ultra slick early stages of lather development as your first pass. And then maybe something halfway between that and a mature lather is your second pass. And then your third lather is more like a mature lather. And that's just kind of the way it has been working out for me. And so does the bowl help that? Does it circumvent that? Obviously, you're leaving behind a little bit of soap in the bowl. It definitely can change that first pass from being so messy. Now, this one was quite messy, right? Because I did not have enough soap to actually become a lather to match the amount of water that I had in the brush. And that's why it was so messy, right? It was too thin. And so the bowl does have a tendency, have a possibility there of making that first slurry be a little bit more cohesive and less drippy, that sort of thing, to get more soap in the beginning to engage with some of the water there. And so then we'll see what happens with the second and third passes next time as we discover the bowl. And I don't know if it'll end up being a tool that's good to have in our arsenal, or if it has some of the benefits or some of the drawbacks, but none of the benefits of the slurry lather method, that sort of thing. So there we go. That's enough for now. Thanks for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.